The following program is an MLWRadio.com production.
The Ric Flair Show.
My name's Ric Flair.
Woo! Woo! To be the man, you gotta beat the man. And I'm saying, woo! Right here, I'm the man.
The 16-time world champion.
Woo!
Back behind the mic and telling it like it is.
Woo!
If you're not carrying the big gold, you're second best no matter what you tell yourself.
I'm the best.
Y'all playing catch-up ball to the nature boy.
And now, your host of The Ric Flair Show, Ric Flair and Conrad Thompson.
Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ric Flair, 16 times your world champion, and the host of the Ric Flair Show, along with the mighty, and I mean the mighty, Conrad by God Thompson, the conqueror of New York, this whole past weekend. Holy cow. And hunting fish, 40-40, Jay-Z, Conrad Thompson, they all roll together, man. Woo! Conrad, how are you, buddy?
Man, I'm good. I'm doing great, man. I appreciate the invite and getting to tag along with the Nature Boy this weekend in New York City.
What a trip. We just don't tag along, man. Somehow we just we make it happen. Good Lord.
I have an idea for this week's How to Be the Man segment, don't you?
I do. I got the answer right now.
Well, yeah, we're going to get into that in a minute. But first, let's get into the Figure 4 top stories. It's brought to you by RicFlair.com's online store. Check out all the cool stuff they've got there. They even have a Ric Flair for President hat. You know you need that. So check out RicFlair.com and click the online store at the top of the page. All right, Rick, here we go. The top story is brought to you by RicFlair.com. SummerSlam is in the books, and we have crowned a new champion. Actually, two new champions. Let's talk about the ladies first. What did you think about Charlotte's match and then Bayley's debut on Raw?
Well, first of all, I can't tell you how proud I am of Charlotte. It goes without say. And even I wasn't sure that they could have a better match than they did on Raw a month ago, but they did. I think it was probably the best match at SummerSlam. I'm not saying that because she's my daughter and because Sasha's so special, but they did it. I mean, I sat there with Vince McMahon watching it, and boy, when he's in awe, everybody should be in awe. It was fantastic.
I really enjoyed the match. I'm going to have a different opinion. I thought AJ Styles and John Cena had a once-in-a-lifetime match for those two, probably about as good as it gets. But as far as the ladies go, I think that's got to be one of the better ladies matches in a long, long time. Definitely on the list of the very best matches in company history.
Yeah, I'm sure. Actually, I'm only saying that because I didn't see AJ and John.
Oh, okay, cool.
You and I missed that, and I haven't watched it yet. But no, I heard them. Well, first of all, I heard the whole show was phenomenal.
Sure. And
I only saw about 4 or 5 of the matches because I was running around the building after Ashley's match, or after Charlotte's match, watching her do interviews and stuff like that. But the reviews were great, and everybody worked so hard. I feel really bad about Balor getting hurt in that match and having to give up the title. They had a phenomenal match. I did see that.
Did you see Bayley's return, or I guess debut, on the full-time roster? She debuted on Monday. Did you get a chance to check that out?
I did see that, yes.
What do you think that lines up for her and Charlotte? What type of matches do you expect them to have?
Well, they'll be fantastic. I mean, I've seen them wrestle before, many times back in NXT. But they're both, they all have phenomenal chemistry. I would say that Sasha and Becky and Bayley and Charlotte all have worked with each other enough that the chemistry is there, and just they're always able to rise to the occasion. So it should be phenomenal, whatever they decide to do.
So I know you put over the Finn Balor match. I want to get your take. Who do you think will be next? Coming up on Raw, we've got the 4-way with Seth Rollins, Big Cass, Roman Reigns, and Kevin Owens. Who would you like to see win it, and who do you think will?
Oh, wow. Give me all the contestants again. I like Seth Rollins. I'm not going to budge on that. I don't have to hear that again. I like Seth Rollins.
All right, let's go ahead and go to top story number
I think
2.
they all have a lot of talent, but Seth Rollins is, one of the 2 or 3 best in the business right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And we're really, when you look at the way the landscape for the titles is shaking out, they did announce that Dean Ambrose was going to defend his SmackDown title against AJ Styles. So there is an opportunity for the champions in the company to be AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, Charlotte, and Asuka. I don't know how you argue. Oh, and Nakamura. I don't know how you argue that those aren't the very best world champion, the very best crop of world champions in the history of the company.
No, I certainly couldn't argue it.
You can't argue that top story number 2 was a big deal. Let's get into it. It's Conor McGregor, and he beat Nate Diaz by decision over the weekend at UFC 202. We had a chance to watch this fight together, but share for the podcast listeners, what did you think about their fight?
I thought it was fantastic, and I thought I was actually very happy that Conor won. I thought, God, to watch, to go up twice in a weight class, a lot of people don't understand that, but like in wrestling, because I used to wrestle my son up sometimes a weight class or 2, and to have the physical strength to match up with that much of a rise in weight, even though he was only 2 pounds lighter, he's considerably smaller, 6 foot to 5'9". I mean, Diaz is just a bigger guy, and Diaz didn't have to gain any weight or lose any weight, and it makes a big difference. But man, after watching Conor, I watched it with you at Jay-Z's, man. He's tougher than hell. I'm going to give him his due.
Phenomenal fight. I'm looking forward to the rubber match, which seems inevitable. And speaking of inevitable, it's inevitable. We're going to cover top story number 3. Brock Lesnar wins by TKO again. This time it's at SummerSlam. This is a hot topic on the internet, Rick. Brock Lesnar's elbows and the hard way cut on Randy Orton were the talk of the show coming out of it. What's your take on this, and do you think hard ways still have a place in wrestling in 2016?
Well, first of all, I haven't been able to get a straight story. There's a lot more to it than that, I think. But do I think hard ways are good? Yeah. I mean, that's really old school, but we certainly did it enough. If you know they're coming, it's just the adrenaline's there. You don't even feel them. I mean, then certainly the 11 staples that Randy got, it's easier now than getting stitched up. Let me assure you, I've had both many. I've had both been stitched up and been stapled many times. So, but I mean, I still don't know what exactly happened there. And I just saw the tail end of it with you. So I don't know what happened, and I don't know what happened afterwards. That's the unknown story. Maybe we'll get more out of that later on. But I heard that there was some stuff with Jericho and Brock afterwards, and I don't know. So nobody's talking. I've certainly asked.
Have you, I did want to ask you about the Jericho-Brock situation. Were you there for the Goldberg-Jericho situation at Nitro years ago?
Yes.
To kind of carry everybody through what that looked like, if they needed a reminder of how ballsy Chris Jericho is.
Well, I've just said it before. Chris isn't afraid of anything. He'll walk into a wall. His dad, not that has a lot to do with it, but if you think about the fact his dad played 18 years in the NHL and was a real tough, hard player, obviously Chris, grew up respecting his dad, and hockey players are really tough guys. I don't care what everybody says.
Right.
They don't have to be big. Some of them are, some of them aren't, but if you're playing NHL hockey, you're a pretty tough person. So, and very skilled. So Chris obviously was brought up that way, and I know that he and Bill got into it, and pretty soon Bill was on the flat of his back. Chris just took him down. Nobody was bleeding and stuff like that, but Chris isn't afraid of anybody, and sometimes too, that, and I'm just going to throw this out there because it'd be a wise thing to remember, and I've been in that situation myself. Even if I think I can't win, if I don't like what's going on and there's a lot of people around, I'm going to make it look like I can win.
Right.
Because it'll get broken up before I get killed.
Well, let's not too much.
I've been in that situation a couple times. I said, hell, I might get my ass whipped for about a minute here, but I won't end up getting hospitalized. Now with Brock, I don't think I'd ever say anything to Brock. That might be less than a minute.
Let's get on. Let's spend another minute here on top story number 4. The new Universal title belt has gotten a strong negative reaction. It's the new Red World title, or I guess it's a Universal title, that they're going to be representing as the top Raw belt on that show. What did you think of the belt, and do you think it deserved the negative attention that it got?
Well, we talked about this last week. I like there being one champion among the men and one champion among the women. However, I understand the necessity for there being multiple champions because of the brand split. We have Raw and SmackDown. I don't know why the people reacted to it so negatively. I know that Mick Foley, who is the GM, cracked on the people in Brooklyn, and I wouldn't dare do that. God forbid. But Mick Foley, who was the GM, cracked on him. I guess there were about 2,000 of them that were hollering they didn't like it. So, that's sad because Balor and Seth, had a hell of a match. But I don't know. It's one of those things that time will tell. I'm old school, but I like the idea of just one champion for each division. But I understand it, and I've seen it before. And ultimately, from the past, it's come right back to being one belt. You've seen that too in your lifetime.
So well, let me ask you this: like, just as far as just the actual physical belt, do you care what the belt looks like, or is it just the designation of being a champion that matters most to you?
Oh, I think most obviously you like the look of the belt. I mean, but I think it's just the designation of being in that position of being the champion. I think that's an awesome position to be in, and I think it. People know how hard. If people really understood how hard you had to work, how hard you have to work to win a championship and be in that position and represent the company or the brand. It's a phenomenal place to be in, and whoever the people are, they should be very proud. Not only the opportunity, but the work they put in to get there.
Well, we promised to only do 4 stories. We're going to go into overtime because you talked about being very proud of the work they did. We saw the last of the Dudley boys. It seems like they have officially rode off into the sunset for the WWE. Give everybody kind of your 2 cents on the Dudley boys as an act, and then as human beings, if this really is the last we see of them in the WWE.
Well, first of all, I can't say enough about them as human beings. I'm close to both of them. I've known them for a long time. They work incredibly hard. They've had a number of great runs, not only with the WWE, but with TNA and independently. And, I think that they're both in a good place financially, which is the most important thing. And it's amazing the money that's available to people that leave the company and just work on an independent circuit, or work on an independent basis, which is obviously a lot easier. So I'm sure they left on a high note. I think that the company's got nothing but respect for them, and I certainly have a tremendous amount of respect for both of them.
And we've got a lot of respect for our guest. We have got him back again, our very first podcast guest ever. He is the 1996 gold medal Olympian, Mr. Kurt Angle. And
a 3-time national champion.
And many-time world champion in professional wrestling. The accolades continue to pile up. TNA Hall of Famer, bona fide WWE Hall of Famer, guaranteed it's coming. And on the other side of this break, he's coming to your airwaves. Listen up.
Kurt Angle, my favorite.
MLWradio.com is the place to binge on wrestling podcasts from the experts. Those who've been in the business at its highest levels, also those with insight and stories that you can only get at the MLW Radio Network. Out now, MVP takes you backstage as he catches up with X-Pac and Chris Masters.
Are you ready?
It's a can't miss episode of the VIP Lounge with MVP and Alex Greenfield. Then, hop in the DeLorean.
Back in
Head back in time as wrestling historian Matt Farmer takes a look at the father of Japanese pro wrestling, Ricky Dozan, on the MLW VIP Only History in the Making podcast. Finish off the week on Friday with a doubleheader with MSL and Sullivan as they talk WCW and the latest news. Plus, Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson back talking about the Ultimate Warrior. Find out what really happened between the Warrior and WWE on Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. Plus, much, much more. The world of MLW Radio never stops. Go to MLWRadio.com. Binge on pro wrestling talk from the experts now.
How to be the man. Well, being the man, staying the man, and I am the man really never, ever showed up more than this past weekend in New York. Number one, being the man means you can walk into any nightclub, no matter how long the line is, especially 4040, which is Jay-Z's joint. The line was 150 people deep. We just walked in. You know why? Because we were with the man. Number two, being the man means you can walk into a restaurant bar in New York City that only has a wine and beer license. You can summons the concierge to come to your table, give him $200 to go out and get a $40 bottle of Grey Goose, which is privately served to you for the rest of the evening. You look around the room, women are in awe, men are in awe, people are just in shock that actually happened, and they looked at me and said, learn to love the legend. This is the man, Ric Flair.
Okay, so you want to have some fun? Imagine how fun it would be to wear a Nature Boy robe to the bars next weekend. Or how cool would it be next Friday to strut into the office on Casual Friday, let out a big woo in your very own Nature Boy robe? Your chance is here now. We're giving away an autographed replica robe. It's pink, it has feathers, it's everything you need to style and profile. And most importantly, it's autographed by the Nature Boy. Now, on the social media sites and on eBay, you'll see these things for like $700, $800, $900. Not here on the show. We're giving away one for free, and we're giving it away next week. We're going to announce the winner on August 31st right here on the Ric Flair Show, and all you've got to do to enter is simple. Go find Rick's Facebook and share that post. You're going to see a post. It's got lots of pictures of pink robes he wore through the years. You share that, make sure you're subscribed, you're registered. Or if you're on Twitter, go ahead and find the show's account or Rick's account. You'll see the pictures right there of the pink robe. Go ahead and retweet that. Make sure you're subscribed and you're entered. And this time next week, somebody's going to get to style and profile in their very own Nature Boy robe. Now back to more Ric Flair Show.
Curt.
All right. Hey, Rick, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Hey, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Anytime, Rick.
Lots going on, buddy. Tell me.
Yeah, well, your daughter's kicking ass, man. I enjoy watching her work.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, she's, her two favorite are you and Sean. And she can almost do half the stuff you guys did, so it's pretty amazing, huh?
You know what? You're the greatest of all time. She might actually be better than you.
Oh, she's better than this. I can't do the moonsault fight. You and Sean got that stuff down.
Hey, no. The moonsault, we're talking about the best worker. You're the greatest of all time.
Oh, please. Listen, I didn't call you to hear any of that. I called to find out how in the heck you are. And there's so much going on in the wrestling business and in UFC and with Brock and all the stuff. And Cody Rhodes, who thought this was looking forward to this as being the biggest match of his life. I hope you know that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to wrestling him. He's so talented. I picked him out a long time ago, and I just, watching him, what he did in WWE, I just think that, there are times when you really need to push somebody hard, and I thought that I didn't realize how entertaining he could be outside of wrestling until he was.
Oh, yeah.
I don't agree that Stardust was the right character for him. I just was impressed that he could do it. So I think Cody is such a valuable talent. I'm just really surprised that he didn't get pushed into the main event ranks, where I really think he would have done really well.
Well, I told him, I'm very close to him and his entire family. I think the breakaway, he's making good money. The independent circuit, as you know, can be really profitable if you have some name recognition. So I think I expect to see him back in a year. Taking a year off, getting away from the Stardust character, which I think took a lot of talent to pull that off. I mean, that's not an easy gimmick to play, and it held back a little bit his athleticism, but because he couldn't do all the stuff in that character. But he's a phenomenal performer, a great kid, and a nice guy, and I'm sure that he'll end up back there in a good place.
I believe so too. I agree with you, Rick.
Well, go ahead, Conrad. I know you want to talk to the shooter.
Oh, absolutely. But before we do, I do want to go ahead and mention, Curt, I think you guys have a special charity T-shirt going on to commemorate your match with Cody Rhodes this weekend. Can you tell everybody about that?
Yeah, Cody and I came up with the idea to have a shirt that we could give all the profits to the Wounded Warrior Project. I've been a big backer of the LLS, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and the Wounded Warrior Project because they're very close to me. My dad was in the military, and I've always been a big fan of the military and what they do for our country. And at the same time, my mother passed away from cancer, and I've been giving to the Leukemia Society for ever since her passing. So they're both very close to me, and I wanted to do something back to back. I had a T-shirt from Represent.com. It was called "Let's Make Wrestling Great Again." I gave money that went to the Leukemia Society, and the T-shirt I'm doing with Cody, which we're going to be obviously wearing it and showcasing it this weekend in New York City when we have a wrestling match. That's for the Wounded Warrior Project. So I'm just happy to be able to do that, something like that for those charities.
So be sure to check out this awesome match they're talking about. For the first time ever, I believe, Cody Rhodes, Curt Angle. It's at Duchess Stadium in New York, and you can actually pick this T-shirt up and support a great cause and represent two of the greatest of all time at ProWrestlingTees.com. And remember, all of that goes to charity. So it's a big, big deal, and we appreciate the opportunity. But Curt, I think what everybody wants to talk about, Conor McGregor this weekend, man. There was a lot of controversy leading into it, and then we actually saw the match. What did you think of the match and the controversy leading up to it?
Believe it or not, I didn't see it. I was actually at a show that night, but I did see the highlights. Listen, Conor McGregor is an incredible athlete and a wonderful fighter. I watch him, and he's so polished. And I understand. I believe that Conor has taken the wrestling playbook and utilized it in UFC. In other words, he loves being a heel, and he does it very well. I know somebody else that was probably the best heel of all time, and that was Ric Flair. And the thing is, Rick knew how to get heat. This kid's getting a lot of heat. And, the comments he made about pro wrestling, whether he thinks it's real or not, I do believe that his comments were for real, that he really meant it. But I think he just did it because it just makes his character even more hateful. I think that Conor is doing this strictly for the money. The more he can stir people up, the more popular he becomes. And I also believe he wants to cross over. I think he wants to go to WWE, and this is a good opening, a good avenue for him. I don't think Conor McGregor is going to fight much longer, and I wouldn't doubt. You saw Mayweather do it a few years ago at Big Show. I wouldn't doubt if Conor does a one and off at WWE at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, we think about that too. I just don't know who it would be. Because I don't think Lesnar will put him over.
No, absolutely not. But I think they come up with a good gimmick for him, and like a gimmick match like Mayweather had with Big Show.
Of course, yeah, that's when I retired. That's right, of course.
He's not going to work. He wouldn't even be good at it, I don't think. But as far as getting there and entertaining people, he can do that, and he can kick some ass. Yeah,
he's tougher than you. He reminds me of TJ. Jesus.
Yeah, really aggressive, a little badass. Probably 99% of guys over 200 pounds. I mean, honestly, Rick, at me at 48 years old, I wouldn't mess with him right now. So,
yeah, right. Listen, Kurt Angle, you're still the guy. Dana White just told me that the other day. If I had gotten my hands on Kurt Angle, or if he hadn't hurt his neck, he would have been the champion here forever. So you're always going to have that recognition, Kurt, whether you did it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I did talk to him. I met with him twice, and we had some great talks. And one was in 2006, one in 2010, and we just couldn't come to an agreement when to start. It was tough. I mean, the first time, whether you think I'm dumb or not, Dana offered me an incredible deal, and I just signed with TNA, and I felt an allegiance to TNA because I just signed with them the week prior, and he told me you can't brand fight, one or the other, and I was like, I just signed with them last week, and he said, well, when you're done wrestling, just give me a call, and I was going to leave back in 2010 when that whole ordeal happened with Jeff and Karen, and I called Dana, and he met with me. I took the physical. I did everything he had to do, but unfortunately, Dana again gave me a great offer, but a 6-fight deal. But he wanted me to start in 4.5 weeks, and I just felt like that was more
against Kimbo Slice, right?
Yeah, just you know what? It felt like he was setting me up to fail. He wanted me to be on Real Fighter with Kimbo, way back 6 years ago. And he wanted me to start that way, and I said, Dana, I'm not going on there for free, going on that TV show. And no, he gave me a significant amount of money, an offer to be on the show, plus 6 fights. The problem was 4.5 weeks until the show started. I wouldn't have time to even get ready for the show, let alone fights. So it just felt like it was too much too fast. So I passed on that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to know, what your take on the whole Brock Lesnar UFC situation was, because he's been in the news a lot, obviously, with his domination of Mark Hunt. There was a little controversy in between, and I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but he won by TKO at SummerSlam with some pretty brutal elbows on Randy Orton. And we talked early in the show with Rick and kind of got his opinion, but as someone who's obviously very close to the situation, what was your take on the match in the UFC with Mark Hunt, and then subsequently the SummerSlam TKO situation?
Listen, Brock's never going to be known as the greatest UFC fighter of all time. He has technique, but he's not a polished technician like Anderson Silva or Royce Gracie or Conor McGregor. But what Brock has is his athletic ability and his strength and his stamina. He's a beast at 300 pounds. Nobody moves like him. Nobody has the strength and power he has. So what he lacks in technique, he makes up in athleticism. Brock is one of a kind, like 1 in a trillion. There's nobody like him. He could be good at whatever he wanted. He could be the best. If he would have stuck with football, he would have been a 10-time All-Pro.
I agree. I'm just jumping on board. I'm just going to, because I want to say something while I'm listening to you, Curt, because I love the role you're on. I was skeptical with the 5-year layoff until I saw him stand head to head with the Mark Hunt, and look him in the eye on the way in. I said the fight's over right now. So go ahead, Curt. I'm sorry.
No, he's a badass. And the thing is, with Brock, he's always going to excel whatever he does. The thing that happened with Randy Orton at SummerSlam, Brock's a pro. He follows orders. He's not the kind of guy to take things into his own hands. I really believe that was set up. Whether it was or not, I don't see Brock just going outside a parameter and saying, you know what, I'm going to open this son of a bitch up and I'm going to beat the hell out of him. Screw Vince McMahon, screw the WWE, screw the fans. Brock's not like that. He's always been a pro. So I find that very hard to believe that wasn't planned.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much the consensus. It just doesn't sound right. I just the only thing that threw me off, and I think a lot of people, was what could have been a world-class match, because I saw them both and spent a lot of time with them both during the day, just turned out to be kind of a so-so match. and to be the last match on the card. Sometimes, but that's me questioning the booking, and I know better than to do that because sometimes nobody can figure out how they book the stuff. But
hey, I don't. You know this, Rick. Wrestling, we don't always make the best decisions. I mean, if I were booking that, just from the comparisons alone, I would have put AJ and Cena on last because it's going to be 5-star. I mean, there was no doubt that they were going to have that type of match, especially with AJ's athletic ability. I question that too, and especially if you're going to have a finish like that. I know it was a shock factor, like, holy shit, I can't believe this happened. But I think most people were confused after the pay-per-view, and they weren't ready to close the book on it, like, this can't be it. So it was a tough way to end the show. I give WWE credit for trying that. I think that if anything, most people are talking about it. They're actually see that finish. So I don't think that would be the issue if somebody else would have went last. So I would have put Cena and AJ on last just because I know that would have been the match of the night. But at the same time, I understand why they did it. They were looking at the shock factor, seeing if this would go viral, which it did. Obviously, people talked about it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And we talked about earlier, I missed the match, but hey, and I haven't even had a chance to ask you, how happy are you for AJ coming in and being received so well, huh? Unbelievable.
Without a doubt, AJ's a one of a kind. I've always compared him to a lot of people like Shawn Michaels.
Exactly.
He has a knack in the ring. He just knows where he is and what to do. He's just he has it all. He knows psychology, technique. He knows when to fire up at the right time. He knows how to sell. The kid's just phenomenal at what he does. I've never had less than a 5-star match with the kid.
No, and I've seen many. I've been fortunate enough to see him. My God.
Yeah. Well, with AJ, I just I can't believe it took him this long to get to WWE. That's what it blew my mind because I've known him for 11 years, and it's like, what's going on here? Why is this kid? Why hasn't this kid ever had the opportunity? And I'm sure Vince McMahon's like, damn, if I'd had this kid 10 years ago, So I'm just glad he made it. And AJ had a great career in TNA. He went to Ring of Honor, did New Japan. But it's good to see him end his career in WWE. I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, well, I am too. He is a great kid. And you know what else? His interview skills have just become so much better than they were at TNA. Yeah. I mean, he can really interview now, and it's like his self-confidence in that particular category is, or that particular part of his skills is just so much better now than it ever has been, because he doesn't need anybody to talk for him.
I agree with you, Rick. I'm really blown away because that was the one thing missing with AJ, I felt. But he has that now. And the great thing about AJ, why he reminds me of you, Rick, is because he can go in there and I can wrestle AJ for a half hour and not break a sweat. He does all the work for me. Same as you, Rick. When you were working, you were always bumping and feeding, selling. You were always going to where you had to be for the next spot, or you just had a great feel for it. AJ does that too, and he makes it really easy to wrestle him. I was injured a lot when I wrestled AJ, and I didn't have to do anything. He just did all the work for me.
Yeah. No, he's that good. How is your health now?
I'm good. I'm actually healthy. I'm glad I took this year off. I'm down to 225. My neck, knees, back feel great. This is the best I felt in, I'd say about 8-9 years. So,
when was the last time you worked?
I'm sorry?
When was the last time you worked in the ring?
I wrestled a kid named Zack Sabre Jr. in June out of the UK. They gave me a lot of money to go out there and wrestle him. So,
cool. Cool.
Yeah, he's talented. I know WWE signed him for that cruiserweight thing, so he's a rare talent. I enjoyed working with him. Before him, I wrestled Rey Mysterio in March for a pay-per-view called your show pay-per-view. It was a live stream company.
Awesome.
Cody Rhodes this weekend, and then I have a couple matches in the fall in the UK and Scotland. You know, Rick, they over there they shell the money out. They
do. You work for the same guy that I work for. That guy is, he's not afraid to pay the bills.
Yeah, the money's good, and the wrestlers are pretty talented. Actually, I'm wrestling Cody Rhodes again over there. So,
great! That's great.
Yeah. So I'm excited about getting two with Cody. I'd love to get a third to blow off somewhere. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I know he's excited. We had him on the podcast last month, and that half of what he talked about was the opportunity. He said you were on his bucket list, which I thought was very cool, and he's really looking forward to it. So, Conrad, what do you think, man?
Well, I'm excited to hear, kind of what's next for you. I know you kind of mentioned that you were taking this year off, and there's been lots of talk online about, would you come back to WWE and what would that look like? Is there still a possibility of that, or are you going to look for other avenues, or what's next for Curt Angle?
Well, I'm not sitting at home waiting around. I'm doing my own thing, and I just started. I signed with an agency. I just did a really funny TV show called Those Who Can't. It's a comedy on True TV, and they're in their second season. I'm doing stuff like that. I'm booking doing appearances this year, but if I went back to WWE, most likely it'd be next year or the year after. I did talk to Triple H a few months ago. Very loose conversation. They have interest. I have interest. They don't know what to do with me yet. It was more of a loose conversation. Put it this way, I wouldn't be surprised if I go back next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if I don't go back at all. But it was kind of cool to talk to Triple H and just bury the hatchet from the past, and we're both on good terms with each other. I reach out to Vince every once in a while via text, and it's just good to be able to let the past go behind you, and if something does happen, at least I'll be able to end my career there. If I do, if not, that's okay. I'm not,
Curt, you're going to the Hall of Fame. Come on, get serious.
Whether I am or not, Rick, it is important to me. But it wouldn't kill me if I wasn't. I mean,
well, it would kill me if you didn't go in. I got news for you. It's a done deal. It's one of those things you just know is going to happen. I mean, here's what I say to a lot of people. This is like, and I'd like you to comment on this. Whether or not Brock Lesnar, we'll use him hypothetically, whoever Brock has got all those the bad PR for it, is using a PED, what do they call this stuff? Brock Lesnar is a double tough son of a bitch with or without the gas. Correct?
Right.
Yeah. The gas don't make any difference. People overrate the gas. It's like the baseball players. Who can hit 100-mile-an-hour baseball? I could take steroids for a year and could hit 100-mile-an-hour baseball. Could you, Curt?
No, you're right. I agree with you.
It's so overrated, man. No, Jesus Christ.
What did Brock get hit with anyway?
I forget the name of the drug, but the gist is it's something that you would take towards the end of a cycle to counteract estrogen, or that's what I've been led to believe.
Well, I'll tell you this. I've been with Brock when he was off of it, and he was just as much of a badass as he is on it. I never talked to Brock about it. I never knew that he did it. I know in college he looked like that and he wrestled like that. He was a badass then, and they were getting drug tested every other week in the NCAA. So
of course, that's what I'm saying. I don't believe any of that bullshit. He could have just taken 10 Viagras in 2 days.
Since we've been on the air here together,
that's how I flunked my test.
USADA has released a note that says both John Jones and Lesnar failed drug tests by testing positive for hydroxychloroquine. So they're going to be shorter suspensions. So instead of a traditional 2-year ban, it could just be a 1-year maximum because these specified substances, clarified that for everyone. So it will be a shorter suspension. It's not maybe what some people were expecting. But I don't know that we'll ever see Brock back in the UFC. What would you guys wager?
I don't think so either. I don't think so. I think he did what he wanted to do. He wanted to prove that after beating diverticulitis, he wanted to get back in there and show people he was dominant, and he did that. I don't see why he would go back unless he wanted to make another $10 million payday. Brock doesn't need the money. He doesn't need to fight again. He doesn't need to prove himself. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't go back. But I see Brock finishing his career in WWE. I don't see it any other way.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, it was kind of. I think what happened was with Ronda. This is my take on it, and I'm just asking around with Ronda not fighting currently, and then Jones not being able to work. I think that when they reached out to Brock, because it was short notice, they were looking for star power, which he has. And every time he does a fight like that, it brings not only a ton of recognition to him and UFC on ESPN, but it brings a ton of recognition to the WWE, which is, I understand, across the demographic appeal of that. It's everybody like that. I mean, it's like you, Curt. I mean, we don't have another gold medal winner that's ever been in professional wrestling. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that, because we did just have two Americans actually win gold medals. Helen won it on the female side, and that's something that I don't know enough people are talking about. She actually beat Yoshida, who was a 13-time world champion and 3-time reigning Olympic champion. So now, she's got to be.
WWE is currently recruiting her now, too.
Got to be. And Kyle Snyder on the men's side, he won a gold medal as well. You're obviously very close to this situation, Curt. What's your take on both of their performances and them as individuals and the likelihood that they would transition to professional wrestling?
I can't talk. I can't speak for them for the pro wrestling. I know Kyle Snyder's only 20 years old, so he's not thinking pro wrestling right now. He's probably thinking another 4 years.
Right.
How big is he?
He's about 225 when he's not dieting.
So he won. Now, what weight class did he win at the Olympics? I didn't see that.
I believe 97 kilograms, which is about 213.
Yep. That's right.
Wow.
So he has the ability, he has the capabilities of going to WWE. I just don't think he's willing to do it right now. I don't know if he really has the personality. I don't know him that well. I know how good of a wrestler he is. He won the Worlds last year, won the NCAAs last year, and he won the Olympics this year. And that's no one's ever done that before. Not all those 1 year. But Kyle has got a huge future ahead of him. I was really surprised Jordan Burroughs lost. But I picked Kyle Snyder and Jordan Burroughs both to win gold. I was just surprised that Jordan didn't. Kyle has a huge future. That kid, he'll be 24 next Olympics. If he's going to WWE, it'll be when he's 25, and we're not going to hear that for a while. But if he does, that's probably when he'll come in. For Helen, now's the time. If I were her, I would hang it up and I would go to WWE and I would get this deal done. Go to NXT and train your butt off and wrestle Charlotte for the world title.
Yeah, Charlotte would love that.
I know she would. I know.
Hey, Curt, what weight class did Burroughs wrestle at?
He was, I believe, 68 kilograms. He's around like 165, 170. Around that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, what is the kid's name from North Carolina State? Did he didn't even make the team? Did he? The kid that was.
Yeah, I believe he lost to the heavyweight. Why do I keep forgetting his name? He has like a foreign name. He was not a 97 kilogram guy. He was a super heavyweight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he won the NCAA 3 years in a row, and then got beat this year by that kid from Ohio State. But they brought him to WrestleMania last year and interviewed him in that. But I know he wants to be in the business real bad too. He's a big, handsome, dark-haired kid. He'd do good. He has a nice personality too.
Yeah, I don't know how I don't know if he wants to go another 4 years and try for the Olympics, but he is very talented. I could see him going pro too, and he's got a good look. You're right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We'll see what happens here in the next year.
Well, let's talk about what's happening now. I'm sure you've noticed, or maybe you've heard about it. They've just called up to the main roster from NXT, American Alpha. People can't talk about them without bringing up your name. I'm curious, have you seen it? What do you think about American Alpha?
Oh, I think those kids are great. They're both very talented. They have everything it takes to be a successful pro wrestler. I would say within a year they'll be in the main event ranks. They just have that ability, and it's fun watching them wrestle. It reminds me of me a little bit. So
they do. They remind me of you a lot. The one, the smaller one, it was in the Olympic Games.
Yeah, he was a 2012 Olympian. I don't know if he placed. I don't know what he placed. But
I don't think. No, he didn't medal, but just the fact that he got there makes him pretty tough.
Yeah. Being an Olympian, that's big news. I mean, there are very few that have gone to WWE, so he's one of the very few. I love Jordan too. He's a wonderful talent. It's so funny because I think Gable reminds me of me, and I think Jordan reminds me of Shelton Benjamin. And we'll see how that goes for them. I know they brought Shelton in, I think specifically for them, and something happened to Shelton. He has to have surgery or something. So
shoulder surgery. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
So I just know they'll have a good future. I'm excited for them.
Well, Curt, man, thank you. Well, listen, before we let you go, tell us about your nutrition company. Every time I call you, you're working on your nutrition company, so we can plug it for you and buy some of your products.
You can go to the website, barndadnutrition.com. We have proteins, fibers. We just started these high-protein snacks and stuff. We're really getting into the business. We also came out with 100% pure chicken breast protein. The one doesn't taste very good, but all it is chicken breast protein. It's a powder. We're the first one to do it. We also have it in chocolate. That's a lot better. But if you're looking to get your body built up really well, that Chick Pro is a really good protein supplement. There are no fillers, no carbohydrates, no fat, low sodium. It's just a really strict bodybuilding, muscle building type of supplement. But we have some great products. So go ahead and check that website out, barndadnutrition.com. That's my company, and we're doing pretty well. We're in GNC, Vitamin Shop, CVS, Walgreens. We're starting to kick it out. We're also in grocery stores.
Okay, Curt, honestly, because we're good friends, is it too late for me, or can I actually use the product and get something out of it?
No, Rick, it's never too late for you, man. I just don't know how to party, man.
I remember the one time I told Curt I could do 100 push-ups and I could only do 79. I used to have so much fun with Curt. God, I miss you, man.
Hey,
thank you for coming on the show.
Make no mistake about it. Ric Flair is a real badass. Everybody needs to know.
Shit. I know I did 90. No, I take that back. I did 90, but I didn't do the 100. I told you I could do 120. Curt said, you know me, instead of most guys that go, okay, Curt said, let's see you do it right now. I remember the good times, man. I love you, buddy.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you, sir.
You're gonna end up having more kids than me.
One of the greatest of all time. The former Olympian, soon to be, gotta be WWE Hall of Famer.
Oh my God, for sure. What a great guy.
Super guy. And we were privileged to have him on the show today. Our second time with Curt. And we got to talk about a whole new batch of stuff. Pretty timely with two Americans winning a gold medal, here in the last few weeks.
Yeah, and the fact that he's always takes the high road. He's always so complimentary of everybody. And it's who he is. And he's one of those guys that wouldn't have to say shit about anybody. I mean, he doesn't crack on people. He doesn't talk behind their backs. He's just a good, honest guy. And I'm really glad that he and Hunter have cleared the air. I've never understood what was wrong, but the fact that he feels better about it, and I'm sure Hunter does. And, man, it excites me. But I'm sure I'll make this prediction right now. He goes to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, sure.
So,
I don't think that's a controversial pick at all. He certainly deserves it, and he'll get his time. And we enjoyed our time with Curt today. And on the other side of this break, don't you go anywhere. We're not done yet.
You know what? He'll probably need a shooter like me to induct him.
It sounds like he's been doing a whole lot of shooting because he's got another baby on the way. So I assume that we're going to see him in the WWE again sooner rather than later.
Woo! Don't miss a minute of The Ric Flair Show. Subscribe on iTunes now.
The Ric Flair Show.
My name's Ric Flair.
Woo! And now, more Ric Flair.
All right, Rick, so we just finished Kurt Angle celebrating and commemorating the 20-year anniversary of his gold medal, catching up on all things UFC and WWE when something I never thought would happen has happened, and we are being patched through right now. And when we hear another voice on the show, who will that voice be, Rick?
It'll be one Mr. Dana White, the head of the UFC.
So Dana White has somehow in touch with Ric Flair. What a small world it is. And I
can't give away all my secrets, brother.
Well, I don't even want to know how you pulled this off, but let's go to Dana White right now.
Here's what's coming up inside the Octagon with a show every weekend from now until October 15th. We're back on pay-per-view September 10th.
You got to keep all this on the show.
For UFC 203. Hello.
Mr. White.
How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you? I'm with my co-host, Conrad Thompson.
Hello, sir.
Awesome. What's happening? How are you, gentlemen?
We're great. We're both huge fans of not only you personally, but UFC. So we just wanted to have a little, everything's so fresh and hot right now. And just wanted to ask you a few things. I'm friends with Brock and Kurt Angle and all the guys from yesteryear. So, and Conrad is one of the biggest UFC fans and of the sport. So,
yes, sir. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
Likewise.
So Dana, I don't know whether you know this or not, and I just want to ask you something before we get rolling. Shamrock and Tank Abbott and all those guys, they had a big fight in Charlotte. I don't think you were part of the organization at that point in time, but it was Shamrock against Gracie. Jim Brown was there. It was a big deal in Charlotte. Sold out, 15,000 people. And and I went. I was so excited to go because I've known Ken forever, right? But the Gracie lock, that's when the guy could put the block on, or the guard rather, and sit there for 30 minutes. I was out of my mind. So what made them finally decide to change the rules? Thank God they did, where they have to get back to their feet.
Yeah, well, originally, the idea of no rounds, no refs, no judges, no this, no that was a good idea when you're putting together all these different martial artists and you were guaranteed a finish. But as the sport started to evolve and guys started to learn the ground game, and then you got some wrestlers in there that could take guys down and hold them there, it became a bad idea real quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. I know that. I went to several, and I just, I felt like the guys. I didn't really understand. It made me despise the Gracies. It wasn't the other guys, but to lay on their back with that guard, and literally, I don't know, Conrad, did you ever watch those back then?
Oh, absolutely, yes, sir.
Yeah, they just were. They were so damn boring. So, thank God they changed the rules.
Yeah. Well, as again, when the Gracies came on the scene and nobody knew jiu-jitsu, they were finishing bigger, stronger guys and things like that. But as soon as everybody started taking jiu-jitsu and people started to become more well-rounded, then there were a lot of stalemates.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Conrad. I got a ton of questions. I know you got some too. Go ahead, Conrad.
Well, let's just talk about the big success you just had with the more recent UFC this past weekend. Rick and I had a chance to check it out. It seems as if that's going to shatter a lot of records. Tell us a little bit about what your takeaway from the Conor McGregor Nate Diaz match was.
The fight was ridiculous. It was, it was one of those fights where it's the perfect fight, man. I mean, both guys didn't like each other, a lot of stuff going in back and forth. Nate had won the first fight, back and forth. Conor drops him. It looks like he's finished. He gets back up. They continue to battle. Then it looks like Conor's gassed out, and he gets a second win. They come back and continue to battle. It was the perfect fight.
Is a lot of that due to their ability to, kind of create hype for the fight with their just dynamic personas, or what do you attribute the success of a big show like that to?
Yeah, it's obviously their personalities, their fighting style, their fans. There's a lot of things that go into a massive fight like that. The right place, the right time, etc. It was awesome. But the other thing that was great is the whole card was good. Obviously a lot of the fights went under the radar because that fight was so big. But man, everybody showed up, everybody delivered, and it was one of the best fight nights ever that we've ever had.
Well, congratulations. They just seem to keep coming along. So we just had Kurt Angle on, and of course, the first time I met you in Atlanta a couple of years back, we were talking about Kurt. And do you think Kurt would have done well in this had he started, had he come along earlier?
Yeah, guys who have great wrestling skills, and obviously he's a superior wrestler, usually do pretty well in the UFC. Mm-hmm. So, if I had to say, even if you look at Brock, Brock was coming in with one professional fight, and he's like, I want to fight here. I want to fight, in the best place there is to fight. I said, man, you're fucking crazy. this isn't the place to come in 1-0. You know what I mean? And boy, did I change my mind about that. What Brock accomplished here at the UFC was awesome. Amazing. Yeah.
Well, he told me how he grabbed you after a fight one night and said, hey, I want to do this. Do you remember that?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He came to find me and meet me, and I wasn't a believer, and he made me a believer.
Yeah, Jesus. What a career. So after a 5-year layoff, what do you think? And I know that there's no prejudice in this remark at all. Did you think that Brock could come back and be successful against Mark Hunt?
Again, he came in the first time with only one fight. Then after the layoff, his age and everything else, I didn't know what to expect. And again, the guy is an absolute freak of nature. Regardless of the stuff that went down and everything else, still to come in here and compete at that level is pretty impressive.
Keeping with the wrestling theme, we've got a CM Punk fight coming up pretty soon, and you guys have done a great job with promoting that. There's a little series on FS1 that everybody should check out if you haven't, and it's the same director or producer, whatever it may be, who's putting together Rick's 30 for 30 for ESPN.
And my looking for a fight.
So there you go. It's what a small world
is.
He's
great.
So cheap plug for Rory there, but tell us a little bit about what you expect out of CM Punk and kind of how that all came together for him to be a part of the UFC.
Yeah, CM Punk, was a huge UFC fan. He and I became friends, and it was his dream to come try to compete in the UFC. And I said, you know what? I'll do it. I'll let you give it a shot. And the guy's been working hard. There were a lot of jokes made when he came into the sport, and people are still making jokes about the guy. But I'll tell you what, the team that he trains with, Duke Rufus's team, everybody there respects CM Punk. The guy's worked hard. He's in there every day. He doesn't go in there with I'm a superstar attitude. He started from the bottom and worked his way up, and everybody respects him. So we'll see. Win, lose, or draw, I have a lot of respect for the guy and how hard he's gone after this.
So tell everybody a little bit about his opponent, because that's something that a lot of folks may not know. A lot of wrestling fans are going to be listening to this particular podcast. Kind of smarten everybody up about his opponent, because I think he's kind of flown under the radar as far as wrestling fans are concerned.
Yeah, so my show, Looking for a Fight, we go out and look for up-and-coming talent. And I was looking for somebody for CM Punk. And this kid, Mickey Gall, we were down in Philly, and this kid, Mickey Gall, fought. And I was impressed. He won impressively. I liked his personality. I went and met him after, and I said, and he actually called CM Punk out, which was weird because nobody knew that I was looking for somebody for CM Punk.
Right.
And it ended up working out. I like the kid. I like his style, and Mickey Gall versus CM Punk.
Yeah, that's that's November, right? Or is that next month?
No, it's September. Yeah,
September.
That
wow.
Fight's in Cleveland. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So, Dana, I've got so many. I know we can't keep you long. I've got so many questions. I'm curious to you, asking you if you think guys like, I know Don Fry real well, right? And Ortiz. I know Ortiz is still fighting a little bit or once in a while, but do you think those guys of that era could fight with the guys of this era?
Well, no, not if they came in right now. But listen,
I'm sorry, age being the same. I mean, it seems like the guys here are just so much more technical.
Yeah, well, what's starting to happen is back in the day, you'd get these guys who had one style and came in and learned a couple of things. These kids today are kids who grew up taking mixed martial arts, and these are kids that would have played basketball or football or some other sport. These kids are so athletic these days, but obviously, if you look at like a Tito Ortiz and a Don Fry, to become a fighter, period, to have that mentality, to have that toughness, I would like to think that if they grew up training in mixed martial arts the way that these kids are, they'd still be fighters. Because at the end of the day, you're born a fighter. You don't just say, you know what, and a lot of people do. A lot of people say, you know what, I'm going to become a professional fighter. You either are already or you're not. It's a completely different mentality that these people have. Yeah,
it's what every time I know that I'm not mesmerized by him, but he's so entertaining. And one of the most entertaining parts, I'm sure Conor will agree, of every fight is the weigh-in when you're having to separate these guys in these pull-aparts. It looks a lot like pro wrestling at that point.
Trust me, it's not pro wrestling, and I'm getting too old for this shit.
No. I know it's not, but I mean, it's just McGregor and Diaz, and I can't remember. I mean, the only piece of what I've seen recently is the one with Brock and Hunt when we stood up face to face. But, geez, I just looked at Brock and looked at that guy, and I said, Jesus, Brock's back, man. He just looked so good that night. God darn.
When we talk about the face-offs and the stare-downs there, they've been cutting weight. They've been training for this fight. They've been away from their families. The big day's coming. They got all that. They're ready to fight. And my job that day is to make sure that they don't touch each other, because fighters have this thing. Nobody wants to be disrespected in front of the whole world. And if somebody gets something off, he feels like he has to get something off. Plus, there's the whole mental warfare thing. You're trying to get in your opponent's head. So my job is to make sure these guys never touch each other.
So I'm curious, talking about, what we've had happen in the past and what may be coming up. I never thought a few years ago I would ever see any sort of WWE promotion on a UFC pay-per-view, but we saw that with the Brock fight. How easy was that to put together? What was it like working with Vince or Triple H or whoever you put that deal together for?
I've been working or trying to work with Vince for years, and it was obviously very difficult. Vince is a maniac. He's a fucking competitor, man. That's what he is. If you look at what Vince McMahon has accomplished in all of his years, and to still be on top, still doing it. The guy's got enough money. He's in it because he loves it. He's in it because he's passionate about it. I would say that this last Brock deal, and when Ronda went over and did the WWE WrestleMania, I'd say those were the two, out of all the years of dealing with Vince and everybody, those were probably the two best experiences. I think that Vince, and definitely Stephanie and Triple H. Stephanie and Triple H are always great, always cool to work with. Vince has been very difficult in the past, but in the last several years he's been much better. I don't have to explain anything to the people that are listening.
Sure.
If anybody listens to this, everybody knows Vince McMahon. Exactly. He's a fucking maniac. He's an animal. Yeah. He's a competitor. He wants to win. And, that's his nature, and I respect it.
Yeah.
What's the likelihood
he
that we
does not delegate authority well.
No, he doesn't.
Hey, so I want to ask one more question. I'll give it to Conrad because I know that your time is so valuable. I saw where Rhonda's not going to be available in December. How do you think she's doing?
November. Yeah, I talked to her today. She had a few minor surgeries. She's healing up and she's training and everything's good. She's just not fighting on the Madison Square Garden MSG card.
Do you think that something like that, did that catch you off guard? Her loss?
What's that? Her loss listen,
that night?
I'm so amazed by this sport. I mean, every time. I've been doing this for so long, and Saturday night was awesome. I was blown away. Anything can happen in this sport. It's part of what makes it so fun and exciting, and it's absolutely the reason it's become so big and continues to grow.
Yeah, awesome. Well, she's wonderful. I mean, I've had the opportunity. I was at WrestleMania with her in at San Jose when we did that thing, and the greatest thing it's damn near stole the show was when she got in the ring with The Rock with Hunter and Stephanie. I mean, that for all of us who were watching that was fabulous. I saw her in the lobby of the hotel that morning, but I didn't know what she was doing there. But it was absolutely phenomenal. So, if you ever when you speak with her again, tell her I'm a huge fan. She likes wrestling too. I understand. So,
she's a huge pro wrestling fan. Huge.
Any likelihood that we see any more UFC stars, maybe Ronda Rousey or somebody like that, on WWE programming coming up?
I don't know. They haven't reached out to me. Like I said, I respect the WWE, and let me tell you this too: every pro wrestler that has ever come to an event are the nicest people in the world. Seriously, super nice people, and always cool to be around, and so yeah, I'm sure it will happen again.
We appreciate you taking the time today.
Hey, Dana, thank you so much. Thanks for taking my call last night. Thanks for taking the time today. We have so much respect for you.
And likewise, I'm honored. Thank you.
Hey, everybody, don't forget, check out UFC 203. That's where you're going to see CM Punk make his debut. It's Quicken Loans Arena, Cleveland, Ohio. It's on September 10th. You don't want to miss it. It's an awesome main event. You're going to see Alistair Overeem, who made his name in Japan. Now he's coming over to the States. He's had great success in the UFC. He's going to face Stipe Miocic. Undercard's looking awesome, too. Travis Brown, Fabricio Werdum, Uriah Faber's on the card. Should be a big-time card, but what you're probably most interested in is Phil Brooks, a.k.a. CM Punk. He's going to be taking on Mickey Gall. You don't want to miss it. It's September 10th, UFC 203, and we can't thank Mr. Dana White enough for taking a few minutes today.
MLWradio.com is the place to binge on wrestling podcasts from the experts. Those who've been in the business at its highest levels, also those with insight and stories that you can only get at the MLW Radio Network. Out now, MVP takes you backstage as he catches up with X-Pac and Chris Masters.
Are you ready?
It's a can't-miss episode of the VIP Lounge with MVP and Alex Greenfield. Then, hop in the DeLorean.
Back in time.
Head back in time as wrestling historian Matt Farmer takes a look at the father of Japanese pro wrestling, Ricky Dozan, on the MLW VIP Only History in the Making podcast. Finish off the week on Friday with a doubleheader with MSL and Sullivan as they talk WCW and the latest news. Plus, Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson back talking about the Ultimate Warrior. Find out what really happened between the Warrior and WWE on Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. Plus, much, much more. The world of MLW Radio never stops. Go to MLWradio.com. Binge on pro wrestling talk from the experts now.
Woo! 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 You're listening to The Ric Flair Show.
You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine right, jet flying, son of a gun, and I'm having a hard time holding these alligators down.
The Ric Flair Show. And now, more Ric Flair.
It's time for This Week in History on The Ric Flair Show. Woo! Brought to you by MidAtlanticGateway.com.
Dick Bourne and David Chappell are celebrating the memories of Jim Crockett Promotions every day at MidAtlanticGateway.com.
And Jericho got hung up there. And Flair got a reprieve by being so close to the ropes. Oh, Charles Robinson.
Did he get hit by the chopper? Did he get hit by Jericho?
Jericho got him. And the referee didn't see that low blow.
You know who got the king of the world?
Flair just broke the king's jewels. And now Flair with a figure 4 on Jericho. Jericho's tapping. Ric Flair has made Jericho tap in the figure 4 leg lock.
I can't believe it.
Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
What happened, King? The king of the...
Jericho might have been king for a day, but not this day, because this day belonged to Nature Boy Ric Flair and his figure 4 leg lock.
All right, Rick, let's get into This Week in History. And this week we've got a good one. This is one of the more recent ones that we've done. It's August 25th, 2002. And it's your first SummerSlam in 10 years. We're in Uniondale, New York, and you're facing Chris Jericho, who had main evented WrestleMania just a few months prior against Triple H. Kind of carry everybody through your memories of this match and working with Jericho in general.
Well, first of all, I was very honored to be in that position, and believe it or not, I actually won that match.
Yeah.
Which was very nice of Chris to let happen. I've always felt like that period of time I'd have good. I don't think I gave Chris anywhere near the match he deserved, but he was kind enough to help me get through it, and it's like Chris is like all the other guys, like Sean and Hunter and a bunch of guys I never got to wrestle when I was younger, which I could have really been myself, and I could have, made the match so much better. But on that particular day, I was fortunate to be in that position with Chris. Chris had been a world champion. He was doing a favor for me, so I'll always remember it. And make no mistake, when we're having a couple of drinks, he always reminds me.
So you've told me before, what a big deal this match was for you at the time, and I know you've often said that more people know you from your last WWE run than any other period of your career.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that for everyone listening? Because I think we've probably got a lot of old school fans who would really argue the point.
Well, let me put it like this. I've got to rephrase that or rewrite that with you or reword it. I think that my career, the 70s, the 80s, obviously the 80s were the highlight of my career. Some of the 90s, up until the, mid 90s, I felt like I was still really good. But then to take a year off and start back at, I was, 59, so I was 53 when I came back, and I'd had a year and a half off, almost 2 years, and to come back and then have the company put me in a position where I wasn't supposed to wrestle, as I've told you before, at all. And pretty soon I'm wrestling, and then wrestling on a regular basis, and then pretty soon I'm with Taker at WrestleMania. And I mean, the opportunities for me to get myself back into the kind of position I should be in, not only physically but work rate wise in the ring, just became more frequent. And pretty soon, actually, I was wrestling regularly every week with Evolution and as a single on Raw. So, and over at SmackDown when the brand split came. So, obviously I liked doing the stuff with Vince where I was a co-owner, but I'm not going to ever deny to you that I didn't like being in the ring a lot too. So I was lucky, and I was in good health.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a big time in your career, and we've got a big time coming up on the other side of the break. We're going to ask Nate. Okay, so doing the show with Rick is fun, but even more fun is hanging out with Rick in real life, and now you've got your chance. Just go to RicFlairShow.com, click appearances at the very top, and you're going to see that the Nature Boy is going on tour. He's coming to you this weekend, Colorado Springs. That's right. This is your chance to meet the Nature Boy in person. He's in Colorado Springs, Colorado for the Comic-Con. It's at Mortgage Solution Financial Center, and he's going to be there on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, August 26th, 27th, and 28th. Next weekend, he's making his way to Dallas. He's going to be at Fishbone Grill and Sports Bar right there in Arlington, Texas, across from the Cowboys Stadium. He's going to be there in the afternoon just before kickoff for the USC Alabama VIP Ultimate Tailgate. If you missed him there, you can catch him at WrestlePro in Rahway, New Jersey. That's on Saturday evening, September 10th. You don't want to miss it. WrestlePro, Rahway, New Jersey. The very next night, he's back in Dallas again. What's he there for? This time, it's the Ultimate Tailgate again at Fishbone Grill and Sports Bar right across from the stadium. It's going to be the Giants and the Cowboys. You don't want to miss that. A Sunday night game to kick off the NFL and the Nature Boy. It's hard to beat. It's also hard to beat that you can see him right there in the Carolinas. He's coming back to the Nature Boy country. It's Flair country, and it's big-time wrestling in Morgantown, North Carolina on Thursday, September 22nd. Don't miss him. That's Morgantown, North Carolina. Big-time wrestling, Thursday, September 22nd. The very next night, he'll be doing Raleigh, North Carolina. Once again, for big-time wrestling on Friday, September 23rd at 6 p.m., and don't miss him September 24th, Saturday, Spartanburg, South Carolina, big-time wrestling. You don't want to miss it. The Nature Boy's on tour. And if you missed some of this or want to know when he's coming to your neck of the woods, just go to RicFlairShow.com and click the Appearances tab right at the top of the page. Now back to more Ric Flair Show.
Ask Nate, brought to you by MacWeldon.com. Look great and feel great with gear that's better than what you're wearing right now. And get 20% off using promo code FLAIR at MacWeldon.com. If you'd like to ask Rick a question, just tweet using hashtag AskNate. And we can ask your question next week on the show.
All right, Rick, let's get into this week's Ask Nate. We've got a great question this week, and it comes from Matt Phelps on Twitter as @CMPhelps5. He says, why was Rick not booked at SummerSlam to wrestle in 1992? That's a question we get quite a bit on here. Do you remember SummerSlam 92? Why weren't you figured in the ring?
Was that in England, right?
That's right, Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, I know. I can't really remember why. I know that when I came, that's when I wrestled Savage, remember? Wasn't Savage a champion then?
Yeah, I believe at the time it was Macho Man and the Ultimate Warrior for the belt, and you were involved on the outside, but you weren't actually wrestling.
Yeah, and that's the same night that Brett and Davey Boy had that phenomenal match.
That's right.
Which was really should have been the main event. I was on the outside. I can't remember what I did. It was Henning and I on the outside, both of us, I think. But I can't really remember what we did. But I don't know. You know. I can usually remember anything that was it wasn't because I was in trouble. Let's put it like that.
So you weren't injured. This is pre-vertigo.
No,
and this
pre-vertigo. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good question. You know.
Yeah. No, I was fine. I can't remember. I can tell you this though. I had a hell of a time over there in London for a week.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah. Good Lord. Told that story with my $3,000 bar bill. Good Lord.
Let's do a 2-for-1 today, Rick, because Joe on Twitter, as JA113, asks a great question. He says, Rick has wrestled some of the greatest. Were there any local or enhancement talent that Rick liked wrestling with?
Local or enhancement talent? I love wrestling George South.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to say that. Tell everybody.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of younger fans who listen to this. Tell everybody what made George South one of your favorite opponents.
Well, he just was a real good performer. I mean, and he had, he didn't mind me whacking him, which a lot of guys didn't, especially guys that aren't, full-time guys. And as limited as my offense was, he always sold great for me, and just a great guy. I mean, I'll always speak very highly of him and think well of him for, and ultimately I gave him as much as he gave me, so he was happy too. So the bookers weren't always happy. It made for good TV.
You gave him one really, really good match back in the day with Jim Crockett that was on TV, and there was some blowback on that. Kind of tell us what that situation was like.
Oh, I just had an argument with somebody. I don't want to mention anybody's name about giving too much on TV, and it basically was trying to tell me how to work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not work physically, but, you know, how to protect myself and all this. And I thought, well, hell. So I just looked at George and said, George, listen, you're Ricky Steamboat today. Just think of it like that. So I did everything with him, do with Ricky Steamboat. And it just made the promoters at that time even matter. Didn't matter, you know. Certainly didn't hurt my career.
Absolutely didn't. On the other side, we've got this week's...
I hate it. I actually would rather not have wrestled than wrestle in a 2 or 3 minute match. I just couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I couldn't even show my wares, much less. I couldn't even get the other guy where he looked decent, but in 2 minutes, much less being able to beat somebody. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Woo! Woo! You're listening to The Ric Flair Show.
I can't help it that I look good, smell good, can dance all night long. I can't help that I'm the greatest wrestler alive today.
The Ric Flair Show. And now, more Ric Flair. The Ric Flair Show voicemail of the week. If you'd like to be the next voicemail of the week, just call the Ric Flair Show hotline, 844-RIC-SHOW. Leave your name, city you're from, and your hot take. If you've got what it takes to style and profile on the show, call now. Toll free, 844-RIC-SHOW. Now, here's this week's voicemail of the week.
Hey, Rick, Conrad. This is Christopher from Alpha, Oklahoma. Rick, I'm a big fan of your show, and one of my absolute favorite sayings from you was, my shoes cost more than your house. I want to know how much did you ever pay for your shoes that would cost more than someone's house? Have a good day, guys.
All right, so Rick, you were kind of famous for going on TV at the time and talking about what your suit costs and what your shoes cost and what your Rolex cost, how much your robes cost. But the famous line is, my shoes cost more than your house. How much did the shoes cost? What were they? Do you remember?
Well, I bought all alligator shoes in that time frame from Bruce Friedman's shoe store here in Atlanta, still there. And those alligator shoes back at that time were about between $2,500 and $3,000 a pair.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, I had every color imaginable. I had white, yellow, red, blue, black, brown, name it. I was pimping.
These days.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
These days, you prefer a different kind of shoe. Do you want to plug what you're wearing mostly these days? People want to know this type of stuff.
I'm wearing the suede Ferragamos a lot.
There you go.
Yeah, I like the alligators, but you know, this is not the time and the place for them. I wore the alligators at the ESPYs.
The alligators, by the way, if you're interested, if you throw it in your Google machine, Friedman's shoes right there in Atlanta. They're on Mitchell Street, and they have a picture posing with some celebrities, including your great friend, Charles Barkley. So if you have a large foot and a large bank account, apparently this is the place to go.
They carry alligator shoes up to size 22 because all the baseball, basketball, and football teams that come here to play the Atlanta franchises, all the guys go and shop there. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
Leather belt, everything. You've got to go sometime, Conrad.
Yeah, it looks like the place to be, man. Shaquille O'Neal's here, a lot of folks, but of course, Shaq was. He was not there in '85, but the Nature Boy was. So there you go.
Goodness gracious, quit balls of fire!
Woo! The Ric Flair Show. Don't miss a minute of The Ric Flair Show. Subscribe on iTunes now.
Woo! Nature Boy Ric Flair, the heavyweight champion of the world.
Custom-made clothes.
And any woman in the world I want. Just like that.
And now, more Ric Flair.
All right, Rick, man, of all the people I thought we'd have on the show, Kurt Angle, I knew to expect. We had him before, but it was great to catch up with him with all the Conor McGregor stuff, with him wrestling Cody this weekend, with 2 Olympians, winning gold medals this weekend, 20-year anniversary of him winning a gold medal. Lots of reasons to have Kurt Angle, but my goodness, after all the Conor McGregor smack talk and the big hype this weekend, we got Dana freaking White. Man, how big is your Rolodex?
Well, I'm just fortunate. I met Dana a couple years ago, and I've been trying to get him as a guest, but it's really hard, obviously, when he's between promotions. But we got him on a week off, and I mean, it makes it really special. I feel very special that he took the time to do it. Curt was fabulous. man, a gold medal winner in Dana White. It'd be a hard podcast to beat.
Well, and how about this? The UFC is a hard program to beat. Rick alluded to the fact that UFCs used to be boring. Let me assure you that is not the case anymore.
No.
Action-packed night. Most of the critics say that this past weekend show was one of the best shows in history. Top 10, I heard over and over and over. So go out of your way to check out UFC 203, especially if you're a wrestling fan. There is going to be the CM Punk angle, so we appreciate Dana taking a few minutes to cover that. We need to go ahead and make sure we get our Twitter plugs in here. You can find Curt Angle, all the information about his match this weekend, and his T-shirt, which benefits the Wounded Warrior Foundation, which is obviously a fabulous charity, at Real Curt Angle. And when it comes to Dana White, I think you know how to find him. He is at Dana White on Twitter. Of course, you ought to throw an at UFC follow in there as well. Our show is on Twitter at Ric Flair Show. Of course, you can catch MLW on there as well, at MLW. Everybody knows how to find the Nate on Twitter. I am at Hey It's Conrad. Our voiceover guy is Jerome Fisher. He's at Jerome Fisher VO. Great friends of the show and big-time supporters, Mid-Atlantic Gateway can be called at MA Gateway. And don't forget, save some money on your mortgage. Call First Family Mortgage or check them out at 1fmc.com. Rick, what a show, man. Thanks for having me today. I don't know what to say. This is a 1-2 punch.
Thanks for having me, which is once in a lifetime, man. We made it happen. Curt Angle and Dana White, man. Woo!
The best podcast of all. Tell your friends, hit the subscribe button, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.